The bounty hunters. Litha's physical expression is completely blank as she parses the information. Yes, there is technically a gap between her central processor and her main systems, but the delay was effectively non-existent and used a flake of proton to send out the signal, and the way she received it back was slightly inefficient, but a delay registered at 4 picoseconds hardly mattered. The fact that such was her standard operating parameters and could be accelerated with Axiom use just made it more efficient. Data shifted through her as she received the image of the evidence from Kaliki about the contract from the Shatterstone Stoneworkers Guild made her smile. The highly suspicious and, to be frank, illegal termination of Miss Brightshell, and now these newest allegations of unlawful imprisonment and the direct video evidence of her officers committing crimes and being legally detained. With all this, she is confident that she should be able to get the attention of the Wallablan Empire, or more likely the attention of several bureaucrats who, while not wanting the post themselves, will downright dirty their panties in anticipation of screwing over the local governess. From what she can tell, the courts are full of backstabbing, power games, and innumerable points of drama and intrigue. The sort of situation that if it were all broadcast live but dramatically cut in some way, then people would call it an unrealistic court drama, as real people couldn't possibly be so petty, which meant that all she had to do was expose the fact that this woman posted in a backwater was being an idiot, and the backstabbing, self-aggrandizing idiots will swoop down on her and fight viciously to take any and every scrap of power she has in their elaborate and ultimately pointless game of getting one over on each other. Although only 3 milliseconds had passed, Litha had already planned out what she was going to say, depending on who she was saying it to. It was so very, very easy to plan things out when you literally thought faster than everyone around you. Of course, that also led to boredom, so there would be times she would deliberately slow her processing speed so she would be keeping pace with the people around her, which would occasionally make her feel dim while she could think more thoroughly and clearly. Fully organic people could make tremendous leaps of logic that left her struggling to keep pace at times, which she would do by speeding back up again, turning most interactions into a curious game of leapfrog between thinking many, many times faster than the others and then being overtaken again. Her call is picked up. The woman on the other side is a Dreen in an ornate Earthani silk robe with numerous patterns sewn into it. Floating in an anti-gravity beam to give her an otherworldly appearance despite her just being a pretentious drone. Not that Litha had much room to talk. She had a full hood incorporated into her frame, despite only the primals having hoods among them in Nagasha. A bit of a nod to Lisa's original faith of primordial truth and her conversion to the synthetic ascendancy, all before she had Litha compiled from her brain scan. But still, part of Litha and help differentiate her from Lisa, who choose to go without the hood in her new ageless, untiring, and evolved state. I am the ethereal and glorious Lady Hargarl of the 14th Court. You have called for my divine attention. Why? Corruption, scandal, and humiliation for the Empire, as its governess of the world of Mordonen, has proven herself inept and foul. Litha states, I am presenting you the opportunity to remove a blemish while increasing your own prestige. My attention is yours, fair synth. Please continue. I have for you consideration numerous pieces of evidence, hinting at, if not outright describing, the corruption of the current governess. These include a failure to pay for vital infrastructure reconstruction before branding the organization that had served her so well as criminals. The complete failure to maintain law and order in the single settlement she is required to have policed and protected. The illegal freeze out of off-world contact, the illegal firing of her more law-abiding assistants. There is more if you'd care to see it. I would very much care to see it, fair synth. Thank you. Very well, information packet inbound. I doubt seeing such filth will be enjoyable, but it is interesting reading, if nothing else. Litha assures her, and Lady Hargarl nods. Of course, do keep your personal line open. I will contact you with my decisions shortly. Lady Hargarl says before the call is cut. Litha smiles at that. The entire conversation had been as precise as her own servos. Servos she uses to slither off the bridge and make her way to the incubation chamber. The smile widens to see little Cindy puttering around. Oh, Litha, the eggs are in prefect conditions. I know, so am I, Litha says as she receives the green light from the egg capsules. While Great Plains Nagasha and cobes of any kind require different environments and temperatures for perfect isolation, incubators were very much the correct answer. Between the two of us, I should think we have these eggs well and truly covered, to say nothing of just how violent the rest of the ship is likely to get if someone unfriendly were to get close. Yes, Cindy says, adjusting her coat. As she's given birth, she's actually slimming down a little as a result. Conflicted? Litha asks. A little. Slithern seemed to grow up so fast. From a hurt little boy into a strong young man. Will I have enough time to be a mother when my daughter hatches? Or will she grow up too fast too? Cindy asks, and Litha laughs softly. I know it's silly. But, well, feelings are silly things, aren't they? They are. They are indeed, Litha says, such as the ones that drew me here to see the eggs with my own eyes rather than just read off the reports the incubators are sending me constantly, or the desire to use the cameras and sensors based on my main body rather than look through the security feed in this room. If your instincts are silly, then mine are too, and I think they're just fine. So how are things going down there? They caught someone yet? Better. They caught wind of local corruption, and I'm waiting on an answer from the ethereal and glorious Lady Hargarl, Litha says with a sardonic note in her voice. Not fond of the Empire? Not fond of the airs it puts on. If it's efficient and allows people to live their lives well and morally while believing what they want, then I don't care what it's called or what the bureaucrats call themselves, so long as they do their jobs. The local woman isn't. That's a problem. So I'm willing to speak with the ethereal and glorious Lady Hargarl of the 14th Court and put up with all her heirs to get something done about the governess. How soon do you think that will happen? I'm not sure. I haven't had dealings with an empire like this before. Are they really doing the Divine Empire government without actually stating it in their basic title? Cindy asks. They are. It's annoying, but manageable. Just long-winded to deal with them. Litha assures her. Huh. Oh, it seems I'm getting an answer. Excuse me a moment, Litha says and partitions her focus. One part of her is slithering down the halls and back to the helm after saying farewell to Cindy. The other is already speaking with Lady Hargarl. Fair Synth, I have reviewed the evidence you have provided to my ethereal and divine self. By my judgment, Governess Adeli Emeraldshell has proven herself thoroughly unworthy of what little divine mantle she has and shall have it stripped from her post-haste. However, our forces are 12 hours away from making an appropriate arrest. Your files identified you as the spiritual advisor, technical professional, and communications expert of a small but fierce bounty hunting team known as the Chainbreakers, an extension of the Undaunted. Is this information correct? It is, Litha admits. Very well. We will be entering a temporary alliance with the Undaunted through you, so that we may make a proper arrest and detainment of our disgraced governess. You are to apprehend her and take her into appropriate custody as you wait for Imperial reinforcements. You will then be relieved of your commission with a week's pay as appropriate. During this time, you and your entire team are to comport yourselves in a manner appropriate to the Imperial Army, and failure to do so will see that member of your team relinquishing their pay. Is this understood? It is, though before we begin, so that there is no confusion on our part, do forgive my ignorance. But what is the Imperial Army rules of engagement? We prefer to take our targets alive whenever possible for legal and divine judgment. However, attempted murder of an Imperial soldier carries with it a sentence of death, which is to be carried out on the spot. The ethereal and glorious Lady Hargarl states, Understood, my lady. I will pass this to the others so that there is no misinterpretations. Very good. I will sending you today's codes and accreditation in the next data packet so that the appropriate information may be displayed when required. Go with the spirits, fair Synth. When your time comes, I expect you in the realm of righteous souls. The ethereal and glorious Lady Hargarl states, and Litha bows her head. Thank you, my lady, but I expect my time will not be for a long time. The blessing and curse of the Synth. Nearly eternal life. But nearly is nowhere near eternal in truth. the ethereal and glorious Lady Hargarl says, and then she smiles before the link is cut. Pretentious but efficient. I can work with her, Lytha says before opining herself up to the communication arrays on the ship. Time to spread some interesting news. Everyone's communicator goes off at once, from the jingles of the girls to the dramatic sting of Slytherin's and the utilitarian one that Pukey has. He checks it and his eyebrows go up. Huh. Well, that's this sorted nice and quick. What's happening? Sally asks. We've been temporarily hired by the Lablon Imperial Army. They don't like what Governess Adelie Emeraldshell's been up to. So we're going to make an arrest and hold her until the army proper arrives to deal with her, Pukey says. Just like that? Our ship has all it needs to get around the governess's little information blackout. This is one of the easiest and smoothest ways this could end, Pukey says as rises up. There's easier? Sure, there could have been some kind of patrol nearby that would show up in a few minutes and do the whole job for us. Instead, we get a week's army pay for 12 hours of work, and most of the work is in the first 20 minutes, if not 10. Now come on, who wants to go arrest a governess? Y'all couldn't keep me away, Sally says, rising up even as the rest of the table does. She slaps a few coins on it, and they all start leaving as the entire bar goes dead silent. Pukey is still fiddling with his communicator a bit and then nods. I've sent an alert to our other teams to all converge a block to the west of the governess's office. We'll go in the front with full legal authority and get her into stasis for the army to pick up when they get here. Stasis? Sally asks as the sunlight hits them all again. It's a way to sort of freeze things in time. If you put a hot, freshly cooked meal into stasis and come back in a few years, it's still fresh, it hasn't rotted or gone stale, and it's even still hot. Just like when you put it in. Make a stasis pod or chamber properly, and they can last centuries, if not millennia, with only the occasional side effect. Like? Sally asks. Temporary numbness or blindness? Some people report nightmares they can't fully remember, and a feeling of exhaustion or about all the side effects. The worst is when the stasis fails in limited ways. It's very rare, but if the stasis field generator is damaged, it can happen. It ends horribly every time. Has it happened to you? In a sense. We use stasis to keep captured bounties from causing trouble as we transport them, but a few we were sold were defective and I'm really glad we sorted that out before we put something other than a mass murderer in those things, Pukey admits. Well, it sounds like that's the sort of thing that shows up when people want to preserve their food. I think it did start that way, Slytherin confirms. Well, ever think of just drying them out and plumping them in a clay pot? Works wonders at home, Sally says in a teasing tone. Not sure any race would survive the process, and the few that might would still be dangerous, dried out. What races can do that? Slytherin demands. It may have just been a horror movie thing that showed up later, but I've heard the Floric can. Could those plant women be any freakier? Careful, one might hear you and take it as a challenge. Pukey taunts and gets a long forked tongue stuck out at him.